Hi everybody, we're doing a demo tonight. We're making Hake cakes with Ben Martens from the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association. Before we get going, Saturday is our book event. Check out our website to find out all the details about that. It's going to be really fun. And next week we have Jim Amaral in the kitchen, and he's going to be making pizza crust and pizza with Maine grains, I believe. So let's get started.
Perfect. Thank you guys for having us again, round two.
Yeah.
So tonight we're going to be making fish cakes, and we're going to be using hake. So we've got some beautiful, beautiful hake here. And hake is a type of groundfish. It's a flaky white fish. And I'm going to get this going into the water to boil it to get things started. And then I'm going to say a little bit about the organization and why we're making hake fish cakes as opposed to any other type of fish, and walk through this. So what we're going to do to get started, and we've played a little bit with the timing of this because some of the ingredients take a little bit longer to cook. We didn't want to drag this out forever. So we're abbreviating the recipe, but the best way to cook it, we've got it on the Now You're Cooking website, all the different steps. So to start things off, we've got, this is about 1.5 pounds of hake, and we're throwing this into some water to get it boiling right off the bat. All right. And we're throwing in about 1/4 stick of butter into the pot with it because butter makes everything better.
How about, is the water just to cover the fish pretty much?
Yeah, enough water to cover the fish. And if you're doing this in a larger batch or the way that we actually wrote it out in the recipe, you need to have enough water to cover the fish. You also are going to be using this water to cook the potatoes afterwards. So what I actually try to make sure is I've got enough water to cover the potatoes in the second step because that's usually more limiting than not.
And
so,
I love that you're getting the fish flavor right into the potatoes.
Some fish flavor, savoring that butter. We're going to be using that. So it's really about invoking that like great fish flavor into all the different ingredients here. So while that's starting to boil, I'm going to be getting some of the vegetables going. So what we're going to be doing is we've got red pepper, yellow onion, and we're going to be sauteing these up in a little bit of oil. We've got avocado oil here, but you can use any type of oil that you want that has a good flavor, high heat point, etc. as you're cooking it up. So our organization, the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association, was started by commercial fishermen about 15 years ago, and they basically wanted to create a voice for themselves in the policy arena to try and make things better for small boats, for sustainable fisheries, and for building a vibrant future for the next generation of fishermen in Maine and beyond. So we really started with a focus on policy, the environment. How do you make sure that there's enough fish out in the ocean to catch year after year after year? But as we've grown as an organization, as we've started to deal with other types of issues, we've realized that we need to tell our story in different ways to different types of people. That's one of the reasons why we're here tonight. One of the best ways to talk about seafood and the importance of seafood and the fishermen who catch it is by getting people to eat it more regularly and enjoy it. And so this recipe is actually something that I made, I was taught by one of the founding members of our organization, a fisherman by the name of Jerry Cushman out of Port Clyde. And he's a 5th generation fisherman. And Jerry is, he loves throwing parties. And so if you throw parties, you need to be able to cook for a lot of people. And so you can throw traditional parties where you have lobsters and clams and all types of stuff like that are easy to do. We really wanted to do something with groundfish. And so groundfish are these species of flaky whitefish like cod and hake, flounder, haddock. And so Jerry invited me up earlier this year. And he was throwing a big party, and we were going to be talking about the organization. He said, I've got this great fish cake recipe. I'll make it for you. Well, I ended up having to make it for him. But he taught me, and he walked me through it. And what's great about it is it's just super easy. It doesn't take any time to get it rolling. It's really forgiving, which is nice. And it was just it was a huge hit on the dock. So we were all sitting around on the docks and eating fish cakes all night, drinking beers. It was awesome. And so that weekend, I made it for my family. And now I'm making it for you guys. And I love it because it's not only it makes a big batch of fish cakes, and it's a way to kind of take fish and use it in some non-traditional ways that traditionally we get these flaky whitefish. We use them as the fillets. We cook them up over and over again. This is a way to create a little bit more space out of it and use it in new ways. And so what we did is I made way too much of it. I had forgotten, like the first time we were making it for a group of like 25, and I basically bought the same amount for me and my parents and my family. And so we had it the next morning for breakfast again, because fish and seafood is an awesome way to start the day. Beyond, you often, getting a high quality, low fat protein early in the morning is awesome. So we've got these veggies going over here. We've got the fish is boiling away over here, and you want to monitor that. You don't want it to get overboiled, but basically you want to try and get it to a point where it's turning flaky on you. And normally at this stage of the game, what I would be doing is I'd be taking some red potatoes and slicing them up into little chunks and putting them into another pot. We're not going to do that. Instead, I cut these up and cooked them pre-prepared. So these are all cooked and ready to go. And that's essentially what we need to do right now. So we've got veggies cooking. We've got the hake boiling. I'm going to take 2 eggs and whisk them up and set them aside. But if you want to start mixing up a little bit of the aioli,
I'm going to do that.
Let's do it.
All right. So one of my favorite things with crab cakes, fish cakes, anything, basically sandwiches, burgers, is a garlic aioli. Aioli is basically a mayonnaise. Homemade, really easy to make. And we are going to make it, one of the things, that I love my food processor. One of the reasons is this awesome little 4-cup bowl. And we're not making a huge amount of it, so this is going to be the perfect size for this batch. And so we are using egg yolks. Oh, I want to tell you about the garlic. The store smelled so good earlier today. This is roasted garlic. You just take a whole head of garlic, cut the top off, drizzle with oil, wrap it in foil, and put it in a, I think it's a 200-degree oven. 400-degree oven for about 45 minutes or so. And it's just amazing. It takes the bitterness out of it and the real bite that you get, the good garlicky flavor. So we're going to be making a roasted garlic aioli. So I have 2 egg yolks, more or less. I have a half a teaspoon of dry mustard, which is going to give it a little bit of a bite, but not too much. I have a half a teaspoon of salt, and I am going to whiz this up. Can I do this backwards? I don't think I can do it backwards. There we go. So we're going to pulse that. Not very well because there's not enough stuff in there. And I am going to slowly drizzle in my olive oil. And the reason that you want to do this really slowly, oh my gosh, is this not going to work? Well, folks, we may have another fail here on our hands, but we'll give it a shot. You want it to emulsify, and if you pour your oil in too slowly, it's going to start mixing. If you pour your oil in, if you pour it in too quickly, it'll separate, and you want it to emulsify. So you really want to drizzle slowly. I think it's starting to work now. We hope. Have you ever made aioli?
I haven't, no.
Learn from my mistakes. Probably a double batch would have worked better. We are slowly. So they say, those that know, that it should take about 2 minutes to pour in your oil. We're not going quite that slowly. So hopefully this will come out okay. And then I'm going to add my lemon juice. And then I'm going to add my garlic. We do like to make things fun for you here. I should have made a practice batch. I usually do. All right. Let's take a look. So messy. We will unplug it before we stick our finger in there. It's not quite emulsified the way I would like, but it's actually really tasty. I'm going to make this again and we'll do a quick video on it so you can see how it's really supposed to look when it comes out right. Thank you for your patience. Hope you enjoyed the show.
I'm going to have to try it. My wife's favorite thing on anything is aioli. So anytime we go out, she always gets like 12 different varieties of dipping sauces. And so we are going to have to add that into our
Excellent. It's the roasted garlic makes it.
Oh, well, we have got a basement filled with garlic right now. So, so we've got these things going. We're getting pretty close. So one of the things I just want to talk a little bit about is groundfish. So the hake that you saw is this suite of different species, flaky whitefish that we talked about, groundfish, so cod and haddock and flounder. And some of those species, like cod, are a little bit harder to come by right now in the ocean and in our supermarkets. And so one of the things we are hoping to do is reintroduce people to some of these other species that are you can use in just about any of the same recipes that you would use if you were cooking haddock or cod or anything else. They're flaky whitefish. They work together. Yeah, what do you got?
Is cod not as available because of the season, or is it being overfished right now?
No, so the cod population is not very abundant right now. Okay. And so it's not being overfished because the fishermen are under very strict limits on what they're allowed to catch. But it means that there just isn't a lot of it on the market right now for local cod. If you see it, you should by all means feel comfortable buying it and using it if cod's something that you're more familiar with. But what we are trying to always encourage people to do is like, you should be buying what's locally available, and we should be encouraging us consumers to eat what the fishermen are actually catching. And so right now, there's a lot of hake coming out of the water. And so that's why we wanted to talk about it. It's like hake is this great species, and most people don't know about white hake. It's a species that very few people recognize, but when you talk to fishermen, white hake is one of their favorite species. It's just like the flavor profile is really nice. It's a little bit subtler than cod, and the flakiness is just superb. It's got big flakes to it. And so that's one of the reasons why it's really nice in the fish cakes as well. When you really get it going, it holds up. It's got good flavor, but not overwhelming flavor along with it. And so the hake that we cooked up tonight is, and we are good and done here. And so the hake was caught out of Portland, Maine. It was caught by a gill netter. And so gill nets are a type of gear that you put a net in the water, and it's got anchors on two ends, and then it's got buoys that go up to the top, and in between those is a net. And the panels inside the net are a certain size. And it's called a gill net because you have certain size panels, and in Maine you're required to have 6.5 inch size panels. The fish swims along, and it gets stuck, and then it tries to back out, and its gills get caught. And so this is a great way for our small boat fleet to go out and catch the local species, catch hake and pollock, cod, haddock, monkfish, other things like that. And it's a really fresh fish because these guys catch it in short trips. They get it back to shore quickly, and the quality is really, really high. People love the fish that's being caught by some of these fishermen in Maine because it's just they catch it and it's landed the same day. So this is one of our fishermen out of Portland, and he traditionally goes out and catches groundfish and monkfish throughout the year. So what we are now going to do is we've got our previously cooked potatoes. I'm going to get the griddle going pretty hot over here. I've got the hake that's all cooked up, and I actually need a scooper for the hake.
So once again, we're fully prepared.
I know. We're always on top of it.
Can I go without? Will that work?
Yeah, we'll get it out with that. Thank you. All right.
So, I hear that you have a cookbook coming out.
Oh, we do, yes.
Do you have information on that?
We've got a little bit of information on it. So the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association, a couple years ago, started a project where we had a couple of they were both fishing wives, but they came up with an idea of wanting to do like a traditional old school cookbook like we had in a lot of our fishing communities in Maine. And they started it. They realized it was a lot of work. It was hard to get everything together and do correctly and make it feel real in the way that they wanted to. And so we delayed it. And this past year, we spent a bunch of time working together with a couple other folks to build out a cookbook. And so we solicited recipes from a lot of different people from throughout our community, from fishermen, from restaurants, from Now You're Cooking. And so we got all these great recipes from throughout Maine that we included, and we really want to show off the local species in Maine, what's coming out of our cold, beautiful Gulf of Maine. And so it's a beautiful cookbook. It went to printer last week. And so we are very, very, very excited. It's beautiful. It's great. And we had a great team pull it together. And so we're really excited.
Is this recipe in it?
You know, I don't know that this recipe is in it because we kind of discovered this recipe more recently. But if we do round two,
it's on our website.
Yeah, if we do round two, it will definitely be it. But it's a great cookbook that's got, it just really showcases everything that kind of comes out of our ocean in the Gulf of Maine, and a lot of traditional recipes that came from our fishing families as well that you often forget about. So, all right, we got to keep moving. Otherwise, it's all going to fall apart. So we've got all these things here. We've got the griddle going real hot. We've got the potatoes. I'm going to start mashing this, and you just want to mash the heck out of it, right? So we've got this. We're going to put another chunk of butter in here, another quarter.
Sorry to interrupt. Typically, you would take the fish out, and then you would put that water in with the potatoes, which you mentioned before, but I just want to mention that again.
Right, and so now in the process, I would normally be starting to cook the potatoes as opposed to already having them all done in previously cooked.
And you could do this a little bit ahead of time so it's not super hot.
Yep, yeah. And so that was definitely, you learned that lesson early, is that you better figure out what you want to do with the scooping, because otherwise you're going to burn your hands if you're reaching in there and trying to make up the pieces.
So we've got. Do you know what you're going to do with the scooping? Because we didn't get you out a scoop.
We've got a little scoop over here. Okay. We're okay.
Thank goodness.
I know. All right. So you can see that this isn't holding itself together very well, and that is what the eggs are for. So we've got the eggs all mashed, all whisked up. We're going to mix in the eggs here. And we've got a bunch of different spices. And so we've got cumin, we've got red pepper, we've got some paprika, onions, garlic. We've got a lot of great spices. I'm going to keep a little bit aside for the griddle as well. All right, and then we're going to keep mashing. And so I put in the red pepper, this red bell pepper. You can use any bell pepper that you want. You can use any amount of, potatoes that you want. You can add more veggies. You can use less veggies. This is one of those recipes that the more you play with it, and the more you figure out how you want it to feel and look, the better. We've been playing with different ratios of fish to potatoes and what that looks like. Not everybody likes to use potatoes. I love using potatoes in fish cakes because they just hold up a lot better and they're heartier. You can, some people will use breadcrumbs and other things like that in as opposed to potatoes. But potatoes, you're in Maine, so you combine the potatoes, you combine the fish. It's a great way to really embrace the whole Maininess of it.
Love it.
All right, so we're going to do one over here. And so what I've got is a griddle that's going real hot right now. All right. And so all of this stuff is already cooked up. So what we are doing now is we are going to just be focusing on browning it up. So we actually want to throw a little bit of the spices down first. And we're going to get a fish cake.
That's like a whole meal.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big scoop. And
you can do smaller.
You could do smaller ones. You can use it as appetizers. You can use it as, this is a pancake of a fish cake. But, and now, the last time I cooked this, what I actually did is I took a cast iron and I put it on my grill outside, and I just got it smoking hot. Because if you don't have a big exhaust fan and you're cooking at high heat and you're throwing down spices and whatnot, it can get a little smoky. But it's these do best when you can really hit them with high heat, because that's how you start to brown those potatoes on the outside. Nice. And really get that texture difference that you find like really enjoyable with the fish cake. So yeah. So now we're just going to let this brown up.
A little bit more spice.
Add a little bit more spice to the top. Make sure that you've got a good amount of salt in there as well, because you really want to make sure that you've got a good flavor profile. And the salt it really helps with the seafood. Salt, butter, seafood. Those are all the things you need to make everything delicious.
Maybe a little white wine.
Or a little more white wine, you know?
And a little more white wine.
Yeah.
We're going to be feasting well tonight.
Oh, indeed.
Nice. So, and you have been with Maine Coast Fishermen's Association for 10 years?
10 years, yeah. This year was my 10-year anniversary
Wow.
with the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association. So it was started by a group of fishermen who, wanted to create more of a voice and start doing good in Maine. And they tried to do it on their own for about 5 years. They had fishermen that took time off the water, took days off the water to attend meetings, and that became a lot. That became really hard. And so they ended up hiring me. At that point, I was working down on Cape Cod, but I loved Maine, and I jumped at the chance to come back to Maine. And yeah, I've been here ever since. And so it's been a lot of fun to see both our organization grow and the fishing fleet change and evolve over time. And the new projects that we get to work on as an organization are really exciting. We're talking about seafood. Part of the reason why we were actually making Hake fish cakes and talking about this is because we have a project going on called Fisherman Feeding Mainers. And it's a project where we are buying fish at fair prices from local fishermen, and we are then getting it processed locally and donating it into local food insecure populations. And some of those folks within those populations are not always as familiar as others when it comes to working with fillets of flaky whitefish. So we were trying to come up with different ways that we could package together some recipe cards to say, hey, try this. This is an easy way to try something at home with some of the ingredients that you might be able to get access to that are really handy. And so this past week, we actually passed 250,000 meals donated within the organization.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
This is falling apart on me a little bit, but you can see we've got a nice browning on the outside.
Fried egg or some scrambled egg with that?
Yeah.
That sounds perfect. And your kids like to eat this?
My kids, you have to trick them to eat seafood at this stage. They are 2 and 4, and so things like this are a great way to get them to try seafood and enjoy it.
It's a pancake.
Yep, pancake. Oh, it's got a bunch of potatoes in it, etc. And so in hindsight, I would probably have added a little bit more potatoes to this to thicken it up a little bit more. But that's one of the joys of being able to play with this stuff again and again and again, is that you get to try different combinations of the recipe along time.
Nice.
So,
and if you had somebody that knew how to make aioli the right way, it would be really nice on the fish cake with that garlic and lemon in there.
The aioli would be perfect. I'm sure you could still drizzle the aioli over the top of it.
I think I could probably fix it too.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to throw this on a plate because this is getting pretty close to all done. If I was eating this at home, I would probably leave it on a little bit longer because I really like to get really crispy outside. Nice. But this is a white hake fish cake. We've got a beautiful flaky white fish. Easy to consume. Get your kids to eat it back home. There we go. How'd that plating go? Did it go perfect?
That was
beautiful?
so professional.
Can you throw something on the top of it to make that disappear a little bit?
Maybe not this time. But we will redo the aioli, I promise, and we'll make it right. That smells amazing.
It smells really good. It doesn't look super good, but you know, that's
looks
always the
good to me.
trick is it's not about the look, it's about the taste.
It's about the taste, and it's going to taste great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Ben.
you so
It was
much for
really
having
fun
us.
having you
Yes,
back.
definitely.
Hopefully, we'll be selling your cookbook.
That's our hope.
No
Yes.
doubt, but I'm pretty sure we're going
Yep.
to. And it's going to be really fun. So Saturday, book event. Look on the website for details. Next Thursday is Jim Amaral making pizza. Saturday after that is Autumn Fest here in Bath. Lots of stuff going on, and we're going to have a big Le Creuset sale. So if you want any Le Creuset,
Oh my
check it out.
goodness. Sounds great. Thank you guys.
Thanks, everybody.